Resident Evil 1, a fan-loved game, and then comes Resident Evil 0 to screw up the plot. So Resident Evil 0 has many flaws, but before we talk about this, there is spoilers to Resident Evil 0 because I know you care deeply about the story to Resident Evil 0. But now let's talk about them. So in Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, kind of 4 and 5, but they have like typewriters and you have to die to access additional space in 5 and 7 all had places to store your items. But Resident Evil 0 said no. Who needs that? You get no item box. But they made it so you can drop items and backtrack to a single part in the mansion. So you win some, you lose some. It's just lose with Resident Evil 0. So item boxes are gone. And to make up for it, let's give them the most hated enemies in the game almost. The monkeys. Don't even get me talking about the bosses. I mean, this is what they thought. Insects look kind of scary. 90% of the bosses should be that or like a bat, but bigger. So a lot of bosses are just one player you have to control. But the final boss, you have to control 2 characters. And it's the most annoying boss fight in the whole game. Oh, and Rebecca is the most inconsistent in the series in only 2 games. So she can defeat a tyrant in Resident Evil 0, but in Resident Evil 1, she needs help to defeat one basic monster and needs Chris. And she's the only one so inconsistent. Like Leon, it makes sense that he would jump in Resident Evil 2, but not in Resident Evil 4 or 6 after his government training. But Rebecca, she's the most inconsistent, plus Billy. Now, I get that he's, air quotes, dead, but still no hint that he's not really dead, Capcom? But you know what? Who knows if Billy even is alive, and who cares? It's not like there's a bunch of theories about him, if he's really dead or not, that have been popping up a bunch. But, yeah, so let's move on from Billy, because he's not been talked about in a while. And we're going to move on to something even more annoying, the hookshot. The hookshot is 2 slots and each player gets 6, so 12 hookshots. But if you want good guns, it takes up at least 5 slots for 1 shotgun, 2 handguns, a knife. So only 7, and not talking about the puzzle items. And you might say, well, if you need it, well, the game shows that you don't need it, because at one point in the game, Billy just lifts Rebecca up. But for only 3 encounters, 2 slots for 3 times over the whole game, I mean, like in Resident Evil 4, Leon lifts Ashley up, not even using a hookshot, and it takes up 1/3 of one player's inventory. And in Resident Evil 5, you have Death, where you can store stuff, or Resident Evil 4, you have an item-like box, the typewriter, and you can get a bigger inventory. But Resident Evil 0, no item box, and the hookshot. Or, I mean, if you could upgrade your inventory, but you can't. You're stuck with just 6 slots. You can't even do like it in Resident Evil 2, where you can find hip pouches over across the whole game, getting a bigger inventory. But, okay, let's move on from the hookshot for now, and on to a different mob that sucks. In Resident Evil 0, now I know there are enemies that are also annoying in other Resident Evil games, but that's a whole different rant video. So the frogs. You better have ammo, because that frog has an insta-kill even on full health. And also, it's just another animal, and that's great thinking for this game, Capcom. It's not like you used that over 12 times already. Also, I know I'm jumping around, but, you want to know why they didn't like the item box, still jumping around in this game? Because they thought it was unrealistic to have item boxes that have items from other item boxes. So Resident Evil 1, item box. Resident Evil 0, no item box. Resident Evil 2, sure, item boxes. So Resident Evil 2 just loses everything. And Capcom first thought that no item boxes should just be a challenge if you want a harder gameplay. But no, just make the whole game no item boxes. Plus in Resident Evil 0, this is Rebecca's voice.
Captain, look!
And this is her voice in Resident Evil 1. And it's a different voice. Now you might say that the voice actor might have stopped doing voice acts, but no. And also, why would you think that? Stop thinking like that. But no, Resident Evil 1 was made in March 22nd, 1996, then Resident Evil Zero in November 12th, 2002. So much changes about the lore in only 6 years. And the puzzle items you get them like 2 hours before you can use them, so you just have to put them in the main hall. Man, it would be nice if there was like a box to place items in or something. But that would be weird in a game where there's zombies and you can survive a 100-foot drop. So yeah, item boxes sound way too unrealistic. So Resident Evil Zero is by far the worst Resident Evil, well, except for Resident Evil 6. And it is crazy to me that it's still $20. It should be like $5 with how much it sucks. And it would suck if like the villain of the game feels like it would be fit for a more lighter game like Resident Evil 4. What's that? It's a singing guy that controls leeches and is the founder of Umbrella? Yeah, no, that checks out with the type of game Resident Evil Zero is. But yeah, there's also a second mansion that Wesker's also for some reason in, and it's really poorly made compared to the Spencer mansion. And for the final thing, Billy and Rebecca's relationship, it starts out with Rebecca being like, no. And all Billy has to do is save her life once by kind of shooting like 2 leeches, and now they work together, and no other growing in the relationship with them over the whole game, other than like 5 lines that are barely 1% of the game. But if you're a real Resident Evil fan, here's like 2 good things about the game. So you know how there's different spots in the game, and the train's a good start, but then the map falls off. And well, that's it for the good parts of Resident Evil Zero. So no strong relationship growth. A boss that should be from Resident Evil 4, or like a different tone game. Bad mansion, no item box, and Rebecca is the most inconsistent character in Resident Evil in only 2 games. Oh, and did I mention it changed the lore of some of the games? Like Rebecca having it be her first time with zombies in Resident Evil 1. Who Made the T-Virus was also changed. Rebecca has been in the Umbrella Underground lab, but still can't get rid of a single monster. So yeah, Resident Evil Zero does not work in any way. And I hope you enjoyed this ranting video. Make sure to like and subscribe, where we can talk about Resident Evil and a random thing I don't like, that I can somehow make a video about. Well, can't wait to complain to you next time. Peace out.